This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by RealVision.com, which is kind of like Netflix for finance, in that you pay a monthly subscription to gain access to a deep library of professionally produced and relevant video content. They're sponsoring our show today because they just published a half-hour documentary about investing in Canada's lucrative legal marijuana market that they think you would find valuable. Just open up realvision.com/marijuana to check out an excerpt of that documentary and to sign up for your free 14-day trial membership, which gives you access to their entire suite of finance videos. If you've given any thought at all to deploying some of your investment dollars into Canada's marijuana markets, you owe it to yourself to hoover up all the good information you can find. Do that today by opening up realvision.com/marijuana. That's spelled REAL, realvision.com/marijuana. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Tuesday, December 5th, 2017, and you're tuned in to episode 386 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. But real quick before we do, I need to take note of a couple of corrections from yesterday's show. Big thanks to listener and Twitterer Be No Good, who can be found at BNGCLE, as in Cleveland, for being the first to let me know that pop singer Nick Lachey, who I mentioned yesterday in context to a story about cultivation licensing in Ohio, was not a member of the boy band The Backstreet Boys, but rather 98 Degrees. My bad there. Also, I incorrectly used the word monopolistic in referring to the failed 2015 Responsible Ohio ballot initiative that would have given license to a few handful of financial backers. Oligopolistic is the word I should have used, which describes a situation where a small number of companies controls a market. Thanks for the heads up there. I apologize for the errors. Our top story of the day is a piece by Tom Angel over at Forbes looking at the possible scenario of U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions cracking down on the marijuana industry during a government shutdown. This Friday, the federal government's current funding bill will expire, and Congress, as they're wont to do, has turned the occasion into a political showdown between the GOP, who I think it should be noted just signed back on in support of child-raping candidate Roy Moore of Alabama yesterday, and the Democrats, from whom the Republicans need to peel off at least a few votes to pass a funding extension. As Tom is reporting, Friday also marks the day on which legislative protections barring the Department of Justice from spending money persecuting state legal medical marijuana runs out. In the case where the government shuts down without an extension of funding and those protections, the Department of Justice, which is exempt from being furloughed during shutdowns, would suddenly have a free hand to make any move they wanted on medical marijuana. While this sounds scary, and it certainly is, it's also important to remember that the Attorney General has been free to crack down on the adult use industry all this time, but hasn't yet. It's possible he's too busy meeting with his lawyers to try to craft a legal strategy against that whole colluding with Russia thing to focus on anything else. Plus, politically, it's not an easy move. We'll certainly be tracking this one as it progresses. The Nevada Independent is reporting on a pretty cool statistic showing that 28% of adults living in the Silver State have purchased legal marijuana. The survey was conducted by Enlusum, an industry consulting group, and asked 1,000 marijuana consumers and potential buyers, defined as someone who's not bought legal marijuana in the last 6 months but who plans on making a purchase within the next 6, about their thoughts on cannabis and their buying habits. Survey participants were drawn from 5 states in all, with Washington State claiming the highest percentage of current buyers at 35%, while California, naturally, has the largest population total of legal cannabis consumers, with around 7 million estimated, or 31% of its adult population. Swing over to the Nevada Independent to find a link to the survey results, which were shared during a presentation at last month's MJ BizCon in Las Vegas. As always, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com and on our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily. Our final top story of the day brings us out to Michigan, where yesterday the state's Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs released the final draft of emergency regulations that will govern the transition the state's current gray-tinged medical marijuana industry is going through as Michigan implements a more robust and regulated market. This is likely to be welcome news to a lot of entrepreneurs in the state, as December 15th marks the deadline for applying to licensing under the new regime. This is one of those stories that you just need to click over to. New Cannabis Ventures has a good piece up with a link to the state's 33 pages of emergency regulations. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz out on headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, RealVision.com, which you can think of as the Netflix for finance videos. Their new half-hour documentary on investing in Canada's legal marijuana market is a must-see for anyone considering dipping their toes into deploying money up north or down south, depending on where you actually live. Whatever your latitude and longitude is, your next move after listening to this podcast should be to open up realvision.com/marijuana to check out an excerpt from their new cannabis documentary and to sign up for a free 14-day trial membership that will let you view their entire library of helpful finance videos. One more time, that's realvision.com/marijuana, with real spelled REAL. realvision.com/marijuana. All right, time for the blitz. Licensed Canadian medical marijuana giant Aphria just announced a deal with pharmacy chain Shoppers Drug Mart to supply medical marijuana products for sale via their online portal. Canadian law currently doesn't allow for pharmacies to dispense medical marijuana, so sales will be limited to the internet for delivery through Canada Post. The Massachusetts Medical Society will offer a continuing medical education program focusing on best practices for recommending medical cannabis. Even though the society is officially against the legalization of both medical and adult use marijuana, their president, Henry Dorkin, said they have an obligation to implement the state's new medical cannabis program in the best way possible. The society is teaming up with the AnswerPage.com, who developed the curriculum to be used. Deborah Borchardt over at Green Market Report has a good piece up looking at the year ahead for the company GW Pharmaceuticals, which is working on a number of cannabis-derived pharmaceutical drugs to treat various kinds of epilepsy. With the company burning through more than $100 million in 2017, the year ahead is seen as, quote, a pivotal year, unquote. Oklahoma Governor Mary Fallin will be waiting until after January 1st to decide on when voters in her state will go to the ballot box to decide on legalizing medical marijuana, thanks to a successful petition process. The vote on medical marijuana will take place either in June during the primary or later on in November's general election. If passed, the ballot measure calls for patients with recommendations from their doctors to be free to use and possess up to 3 ounces of marijuana, as well as to grow 6 mature plants and 6 seedlings at home. Jumping back west to Los Angeles, we have news of a committee of lawmakers approving a set of proposed guidelines yesterday for how legal marijuana will work in that sprawling city, with the LA City Council at large set to cast their vote on the matter during a meeting tomorrow. This is another one of those stories that you just need to open up for all the details. The Canadian press is reporting that Canadian federal government officials have expressed some openness to the idea of sharing a higher percentage of legal marijuana tax revenue with provinces and territories than had been previously thought. Finance ministers from the federal government, as well as the country's territories and provinces, will be meeting on December 10th and 11th to discuss a number of issues, with cannabis taxes being one of the bigger items. And finally for today, KQED has a wonderful collection of videos of vintage anti-marijuana public service announcements. Those videos and films put together by prohibitionists warning kids of the oversized dangers of using cannabis. KQED's piece starts with the classic 1936 scare film Reefer Madness and takes us all the way up to the more contemporary cartoon All-Stars to the Rescue, which I certainly remember from my childhood. It's a well-researched piece that's well worth the click. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily and visit our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, Real Vision, and to all of our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with Marijuana Today.
One take, Shay. One take.